Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Lead Her podcast. We have got a guest here today. Welcome to the podcast, Michaela.
Thank you. Hello.
So me and Michaela go way back. We actually went to the same university, but our paths didn't really cross until after uni. I started coaching, and then Michaela came with some questions into like how we could improve her relationship with food and training. She just wanted to get in even better shape than she was by herself. So we knew there was some improvement with food there. So we worked together for a good year or so, didn't we? Maybe longer.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, and Michaela's honestly always such an incredible client to have. Like, you just done the work, you got your head down, you pushed, you learned, and you took it all in. And then we were eventually at a stage where we're like, you were good to go and do it alone. And then we worked together a little bit after your first baby.
Yep.
And that was more just making you eating more, feeling more fueled to like manage training, get back into training and find a routine post-pregnancy, because your life changes so much when you have your
Yeah.
first child, doesn't it? So that's how we kind of knew each other. And then recently, I was at a friend's house. She's had her baby, and I went to her house this time, and she seemed like a different person. She had so much energy. She was very chilled, and all of a sudden she said, "Oh, I've had a sleep coach for my little boy." And I was like, "Oh, that's amazing." And then she said it was Michaela. And I was like, Michaela, no way. And she was like, "Yeah, she does sleep coaching." And I don't know how I hadn't seen it on social media, because I see your stuff all the time, but I just hadn't seen that you were doing that. And I straight away, the clock in my head was ticking. I was like, right, I need to speak to you, because I know over the years, especially like with Lead Her, and I'm growing, everybody who's followed us on social media is growing, all our members are growing. Everybody's at that kind of stage where they're thinking of having kids or they've had kids. And I just knew straight away, I was like, oh my God, Michaela could really give some really good value to like a lot of the women listening to this podcast. So we reached out. She was happy to come on. So I'm super excited to have you here today, Michaela. Thank you so much for coming along.
Well, thank you for that introduction. That was lovely.
And
um,
I was just going to say, sorry, on top of that, anything like I've missed, like, do you want to share everyone a little bit more of who is Michaela?
so I guess, well, I am a sleep coach. I'm also a primary teacher, and I'm a mum of two. I've got Lottie, who is now, which seems crazy, she's over 2.5. And I've got little Otto, who is 5 months. So yeah, a mum of two, trying to juggle lots of things at the moment, but it's been great.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. And when did you figure out you were having Otto?
It was actually just after Alan and I got married. We got married in Ibiza, and Alan and I stayed out for a couple of days afterwards, and I just felt very iffy. And I kind of, after that, I was like, this isn't a hangover anymore. So when we got home, I was like, right, I'm gonna do a test, and there we were. We were pregnant with Otto, so it was a little surprise, but he's more than welcomed in the family. We love him so much. So
Yeah.
he's just our little chilled baby. He's very chilled, so he's lovely.
Yeah, I love that. So with you being a teacher, how the hell did you get into your sleep coaching? Where did that come from?
So basically, what happened was I got pregnant with Lottie, and she was born the like January after lockdown. So the January after the first ever lockdown, which was when after Christmas everything closed. So Lottie came then. It was dark, it was cold. Before then, I just assumed I had no friends who had babies, so I just assumed you kind of fed a baby, put them down in their cot, and they slept until they were hungry again, and it kind of worked like that. And oh my gosh, was I rudely awakened when Lottie came along. Um, she didn't sleep. She had really bad reflux. She had a milk intolerance. When she was 5 days old, Alan had to kind of leave to go. He worked away, so when she was 5 days old, Alan left, and I was kind of there with this baby who didn't sleep for 2 weeks, and sleep deprivation just it was awful. It was a really kind of dark time, and I thought I need to get on top of this, or I'm gonna go crazy. So I started kind of googling lots of how to get your baby to sleep, but there was loads of conflicting evidence. There was stuff saying they should be sleeping for 2 hours, and there was things saying 1 hour, and I just thought, right, I need to properly do this. So I started buying books and researching other sleep coaches, and eventually I got Lottie to sleep so much better. And I remember Alan coming home from a camp and being like, you with Shona, he was just like, oh my God, Michaela, what's happened? You're like a different person. Like, you're so chilled out, you're happy, you're yourself again. And yeah, from then on, I was like, after that, I was like, I don't want anyone else to go through that. Like I say to my friends and things, when I look back at Lottie's first kind of few months of her life, it's just black and it's grey. The memories they're not nice. And I would hate for any other mums to go through with that. So I decided again to kind of research how to become a sleep coach. And there was a course there and it was pricey, but I thought, you know what, let's go for it. I was on maternity leave. I didn't really have much to lose apart from the money. And I just loved it. It was so interesting and it just became such a passion of mine. And at the end of the course, you needed to do kind of 5 case studies. So you had to work with a baby, a toddler, at certain ages, I can't remember what. And I worked with all 5 of my case studies. And thankfully, they all went to baby classes and kind of talked about me. And then I was like, right, okay, I'm going to start an Instagram and I'm going to see where this goes. So, yeah, 2.5 years ago. And then I'm here now, still doing it. So, yeah, that's kind of the story of how it happened. It came from something not so positive, but it's created such a positive thing for me, my family, and all of the families I work for. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, like for you, like with your first time having a baby, you didn't realize there was anything that could help you with that, and
No,
try to do it by yourself or like just try to get on with it, and it just wasn't working for
uh, it was not working. No, and yeah, just like I needed help from you at some point. Like you just sometimes need that coach to help you in the right direction. And the good thing about being a sleep coach is you're not actually telling anyone what to do. You're just guiding them through that process of, right, these are the options. What do you think? Because you know your baby best. We work together to kind of create that plan. It's not just like sleep, there's sleep consultants that tell you exactly what to do, but in a coaching thing, it's more we're making the decisions together and I'm giving you the tools to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, and how did you manage all the studying and getting the course and starting to help people with having Lottie and still trying to train as well because you were back
Yeah.
working out? And obviously
um,
that leave finished, so eventually you would have went back to schools.
yeah, so I did the course during mat leave and I did my case studies during mat leave, which made things a little bit easier. And at this point, because I'd worked on Lottie's sleep, Lottie was sleeping so much better. So I could like schedule calls when I knew she'd be napping, like what I'm doing now, kind of like when I know they're going to be napping, I'll schedule a call with a new client. And it was just really making time. I'm so lucky. I've got my mum who's 5 minutes down the road, Alan's mum who's 30 minutes up the road. And it does take a village to bring up children and whatnot. So I'm so fortunate that I can drop them off here and there just for like if I need to do a discovery call or if I need to do an initial call. But I guess it's about making time as well. Like I do lots of my calls in the evening when Lottie and Otto are sleeping. And I suppose that works really well for most mums as well because that's kind of their free time. So it's just about making time. And I think if you really like, I'm so passionate about the sleep lab, so I just try and make it work the best I can. I've got Alan here as well who'll take the kids happily. I'm just really fortunate. I've got lots of family around, but it is about as well kind of prioritizing things. You know, I might have to miss out on a few things with my friends because I've got calls in the evening, but again, I love helping people and I love the sleep lab, so I love kind of making it work. And it's just about, I guess, time management for me, I think, with 2 little kids at the moment. I naively thought this time on maternity leave I'd be able to do a lot more, but I have been rudely awakened by that as well. Having to is different level. So I maybe don't get as much done now as I did in my first maternity leave, but I do try my best to yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I just find it so interesting when you've just found something, it's such a struggle. You feel the only person in the world that's got the problem and everybody else is getting on with it. And you've found out more, you've found a passion in it and you've just rolled with it and you're feeling so good. And I think like a thing for a lot of mums as well is like they can lose themselves a little bit, like their identity when they become a
Mhm.
mum. And it's almost like this gave you a little side passion and a little bit of a purpose.
For sure, definitely.
Like Michaela, not just mum Michaela,
Yeah.
mat leave. So I think that's really important as well, as having like a little hobby or like an
Oh
interest
yeah,
you actually want to do that's not
yeah,
just cleaning the house or
yeah.
doing just the washing. Like,
Feeding a baby and talking to a baby. Yeah, you and you need that. And I think as well for me during pregnancy, you know, we've talked about how much of a hard time I had. I was really, really sick. So I kind of lost that Michaela workout side of me. Like I loved working out and I just had apps. You couldn't have I couldn't have been paid £1 million and I would have went and did a workout at that point. So I lost that part of me whilst I was pregnant as well. So regaining something like a new passion was super, yeah, it really helped me during mat leave as well, because sometimes mat leave can be a bit lonely as well. You know, all your friends are at work and you're the one at your husband's at work or your partner's at work and you're the one kind of, this is my job now. It's a bit strange. And it's not a job where you see many people. So finding that passion and something that you absolutely love and want to work on it's great. And it helped me so much during maternity leave with Lottie for sure. Yeah.
I think that's really special as well because like some people don't like baby classes. Like I've met some women that are like baby classes are just not for me. So they do feel quite lonely. Like, and especially like again, when we're all at that age where some of us are still chasing our career or whatever, and then some of us have kids and you're like, you've got no other friends. So I do feel bad for my friend because she's like the only one out of us that's had a baby. And
Yeah.
it's so freaking hard. So to hear that she'd worked with you and you'd helped her so much, like that's amazing, like that you can do that for people and they don't
Yeah.
feel alone during
Yeah.
that time. And there's different ways where you can meet other mums or you can meet people like you that just get it and don't make you feel alone anymore. And it doesn't need to be just a baby class where you find your people and you create that community.
And like I say, I still speak to loads and loads and loads of my clients. I have some of them on Facebook, and we they share my stories for me and whatnot. And I have relationships with loads of them because you've been in that same situation where your little one doesn't sleep and you are like, oh my gosh, someone come and save me. That's all you need. So when you've got that in common and you can relate to each other, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what we were thinking today was that you could maybe provide some tips for some mums that are struggling. But
Yeah.
like it's not just newborns, is it, that you work?
No.
Because I think a lot of people think it's just the early days that they struggle
Yeah.
with sleep
Um,
deprivation and teething and stuff like that. So who do you
Yeah, I go from I do work with, so what I class as a newborn is 0 to 4 months. It's a little bit trickier to work with that age because they are just quite unpredictable. So unless you really, really, really need my help, I usually say go and wait until they're about 4 or 5 months, because that's when sleep can properly improve. I can give guidance from 0 to 4, but it's usually 4 months onwards that you can see the biggest improvements. So I do like from 4 months until the oldest I've done is 4 years. I have had a request for a 7-year-old, but that's just a little bit out of my expertise. So I would say from like 4 months to 5 years is where I would like set my limit.
Yeah, because a lot of people just think that it
Yeah,
it's got a baby, it doesn't sleep, and they just
yeah,
normalize it for years rather than
yeah,
exploring something like this. I guess if you came across cases like that where people have just held off because they thought it was normal.
yeah. Like a baby doesn't sleep, and it's such a shame that that is what most people think, that when you have a baby you won't be able to sleep, but it's actually, sleep deprivation is awful. So really shouldn't have that mindset. We should have the mindset, oh, I've got a baby, I might have some sleep, like a few sleepless nights, but I should be able to work on that. Whereas a lot of mums do think, I just thought like it was kind of normal for my baby not to sleep, and then they get to 1 year and they're still not sleeping, and it kind of goes on like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like now that I have Lottie and she's a toddler, I love working with toddlers as well. Like I think they're so funny. They've got their own little personalities and it's just great. Like yeah, it's lots of fun working with toddlers. I really like it. So having a baby and a toddler has definitely put me in a much better position, because now I remember when I work with baby mums, like, oh, this is what the baby stage is like. But I also have that experience of a toddler as well. So it's been great having Otto to remind me of that kind of newborn stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like when what I've kind of came across with some mums that have their second child is like the first child might have slept amazing and they found it really easy.
Yeah,
Then they've
yeah,
had second one, they're like, oh, well, maybe it's just each child's different and this is normal. And then it's affecting both children then because
Yeah,
one's not sleeping. And
fair
like,
enough.
yeah, and like you kind of said at the start as well, like that grey feeling of like not sleeping right, like
Mm.
it just shows you the power of sleep. Like one thing
Oh,
we say on
God.
our to our members is like when everything's gone to shit, it's like what's the first thing that we do?
Mhm.
Get your sleep right. Because if you get your sleep right, you've got more energy, you can think
Yeah.
properly, you're probably going to eat better as well.
Oh, yeah.
And
We had Otto cut his first tooth last week, and obviously that was our first few sleepless nights in a wee while. And Alan and I, for a good few days, were just like, oh my gosh, we are like blunt knives. We could not think properly. We were eating rubbish. There's still milky buttons in there from like just felt like we needed sugar. I was just like, oh gosh, it was rough. So yeah, sleep is so important. I don't know how I would function as a mum without it. I don't know how I'd work with. It's just so important. It makes me feel so much better and so much more alert the next day, and kind of I'm more aware and I'm more present when I've had sleep as well. I'm not thinking of other things. So yeah, it's super important.
yeah, brilliant. Okay, so going into that, if we had mums that were struggling with listening to this and they're like, oh my God, that's me, like what would be three tips that you would maybe get them to help them with their children that aren't sleeping right?
Okay, so if they're a kind of like baby, maybe like 0 to 1 year old, I would say what you need to do is practice kind of putting them to getting them nice and drowsy in your arms or by feeding them, but then putting them in their cot or their crib drowsy but awake, and just giving them that chance to kind of self-soothe and get themselves off to sleep. Because what like most baby sleep problems arise from is that they don't know how to get off to sleep without you kind of rocking, singing, feeding them to sleep, because they don't have that skill yet. But if you give them lots of time to practice it by putting them in their cot drowsy but awake, they will be able to learn that skill. And then if they wake up during the night, they've got that skill to get them back to sleep, as opposed to crying out for you for their help, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sure it will. If you're a baby mum, you'll understand. You'll know what I'm talking about. I'm almost positive.
yeah, oh, absolutely. Like I know what you mean. Rather than them falling asleep in your arms
Uh-huh.
and then they're
Yeah.
sleeping and then you're putting them into like a cold or like, they're coming away from you, they're not hearing your heartbeat and all that, or
Yeah.
death, and then they're just in this cot by themselves. Like it
I
must be
know.
such a transition, wakes them up.
When I was doing my sleep course, the lady who taught it referred to it as like, imagine you fell asleep in your bed, but then woke up on a park bench. You would wake up and be like, oh my gosh. So it kind of that's when I was like, wow, that does make sense. So
Yeah, that's amazing. And just out of interest, is there any like research that if kids haven't had that taught as a young kid that affects them sleeping as in adulthood or anything? No, nothing like that.
no, there's not a lot of research on child sleep or baby sleep. But so yeah, like, because it would be kind of, it wouldn't be fair to do like, not experiments, but research on babies. So there's not much that goes with it. It's just kind of trial and error, I guess. And
So that's like a really, really simple tip. But
yeah.
like with any other goal in life, like we all think it's going to be this massive different thing that you do and it changes everything. But it's a simple change, but it's a simple change that sometimes will boss and it'll go perfect. And there'll be some days when they do it and it just doesn't work.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
consistency over time of that little change that
Yeah, and just like the thing is, so if you've got a baby who you're used to they're falling asleep with a little cuddle from you or whatever, and you pop them in their cot drowsy but awake, they probably are gonna be like, what's going on? So it's just about giving them that tiny little bit of opportunity. And if then they start crying and you feel a little bit uncomfortable, picking them up and starting again, but always just trying to give them that little bit of opportunity. And over time, that should help them learn to do it themselves, just giving them that little bit of time each time. And what you might find is that each time you do it, they'll last a little bit longer, until they kind of learn that skill themselves. Some babies learn it without any help, and some babies just need a little bit more help than others, which is what Lottie was like. So
and is it one of those ones like where because I've only like I know it's so different, right? But having a dog and trying to train a dog for sleeping through the night and going to the bathroom and stuff like that, you have
It's honestly, it's not that much different. My friend Hannah had her dog. She got him last year, and she was messaging me during the night, being like, "Is this what it was like to have Lottie? I'm actually cuddling this dog," and I was like, "Yes, that's what it's like."
feel
So
so bad when I say that. I'm like, people must be like, she is mental. But it's that idea where like sometimes I was like, this isn't working. Like I'd proper like get really frustrated. And then the next day it was like, oh, you just get that breakthrough moment when it
yeah,
all comes together. It's maybe a little bit like that.
yeah, definitely, and you get lots of clients like. So we WhatsApp during the day and at night times whilst I'm giving them advice, and some of them are like, "Oh my gosh, they've just done it," and then the next day they're like, "They're doing it again. Is this real?" You're like, "Yes, you've probably cracked it now."
That's amazing. I
And
love
they
that.
always message, they're like, "I don't want to jinx it," but because they're obviously like, like once you crack baby sleep, you'll know. You're always like, "I don't want to tell anyone in case it goes back to the way it was." So loads of them will message me like, "I don't want to jinx it, but so and so is still asleep." So it's lovely to get those messages from them.
And it's just, oh, we'll talk about that because I know we're going to come up to that later. So what's number two?
I would say number two, and this is kind of all ages, would be use white noise. So continuously. So when they're napping, have white noise playing. When they're sleeping at night, have white noise playing. And it's basically because it younger babies, so it like reminds them of being in your womb, all the blood rushing past them and whatnot. And also for older kind of toddler ages, it blocks out, for instance, if there was an Amazon delivery and they were knocking at the door, having that white noise in their room or just outside the room will block that out and reduce the chances of them waking up. And I mean, that's a super simple one to implement. It's just you can get a white noise machine on Amazon, or loads of my clients actually use their Alexas and just say, "Alexa, play white noise." So yeah, and it's like the holy grail of baby sleep. I would say it's so good. I take it out with Otto on his pram walks and whatnot as well, just in case we're going past any like cars or anything, and they'll wake him up.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. And like, is it just when, like you said there, you'll do it when you're out on a walk?
Uh-huh.
Just when you're trying to get them to sleep, or is it just all the
Yeah, I would like if Otto's been a little bit fussy or anything, I'll put white noise on to calm him down because again, like it's mimicking that kind of sound of being in the womb, so they feel nice and comfortable. And yeah, it can settle. Like I'll if they're kind of distressed or anything, I say stick white noise on, and it usually works, but mainly for sleep. And now because like Otto sleeps, he's in another room now, but we can hear the white noise. And if it ever runs out of battery, I can't get back to sleep. Now I need it. I'm like, I love white noise for sleep. So
yeah.
yeah,
And
it's
does
brilliant.
Lottie not use it anymore then?
She doesn't use it anymore. I think we got to a point when she was probably maybe two, and it like had ran out of battery one night, and she was still sleeping. And I thought, oh, I'm just gonna take that away from her now. But she does like she comes into Otto's room and puts it on for him. So she'll say white noise on for Otto and like presses the little button. So which is really cute.
I love the Alexa idea because I did actually have some members before that were putting it on their phone. So that
Uh-huh.
they didn't do anything else because
Yeah.
the white noise on and then their phone moved out of battery. That
Yeah.
having it on the Alexa is a really good shout, or like you said, just investing in one of those machines as well.
Yeah, they're like some of them are like £20 on Amazon, and they're portable as well, which is really handy for going on holiday and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah. Because like a lot of people would like sometimes like hoovers, like back in the day, like
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
hoovers and like noises like that.
Yeah. When so this is really funny. So when I was trying to work on Lottie's sleep, when I was like not doing, I probably wasn't doing everything as right as I could have been. I used to honestly, like some of my clients laugh at me for this, but it was like April time and I would close all of the curtains in my house and just hoover with her in the carrier every day to make her go to sleep. So I'd have the hoover on, she was strapped to me in the carrier, and it would be like 1 in the afternoon and all of the curtains would be closed in the house. But yeah, like that kind of hoover noise, it does get them to sleep. Just don't do what I did, because I mean my house was super clean. That was like about
Yeah,
it. I was absolutely crazy back then.
yeah, killing two birds with one stone, getting
Yeah, I know.
at the same time.
I remember having my friends round and I was like, right, I just need to hoover and put her in the carrier. It'll be like 30 minutes. And they were just like, oh my gosh.
And even like if a kid is a little bit older, would you still recommend bringing the white noise?
Yeah, white noise. That's in like I put in my toddler sleep plans. I put in my baby sleep plans. It's kind of for everyone.
Yeah.
Just that Lottie's kind of she's she's been a good sleeper since I worked on sleep, so she's probably grown out of it. But if you are really trying to work on sleep, I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Amazing. And what's the last one?
I would say, like, for me, I didn't do this with Lottie, but I do recommend it a lot now. Is just if you can't get them to sleep, take them out a walk, like get out in the fresh air. It makes you feel so much better. Like
Mm.
when you're trying to get your little one to sleep and it's really, really hard and they're fighting it, the best thing you can do is go out for a walk. Like if they don't like the buggy, put them in the carrier, put them in the sling, like just get out and get some fresh air, because fresh air helps baby sleep at night as well. And it'll make you feel so much better, because I know how hard it is sometimes, and you feel like you're stuck in the house and you want them to go for a nap. But if you just go out in the fresh air, I promise it'll make you feel so much better. Even if, like, I know this sounds so silly, but even if it's raining, put the rain cover on and just get your raincoat on and go out. It makes such a difference.
Yeah, yeah. And what if it was like kind of nighttime? I'm guessing that's something you wouldn't really do at night.
Yeah, if they weren't sleeping at night, I'd be thinking of like giving them a little bit more warm milk, trying to get your white noise on, put it up a little bit louder, and just give them a good old cuddle until they get there, and know that this doesn't last forever. Like
Yeah.
it's something that you might have the worst night. It might take 2 to 3 hours, but it does not last forever, and things will get better. And I think telling yourself that, and just telling yourself that you're the best mum for your child, and you're their mum for a reason, and you're doing absolutely nothing wrong, and just reminding yourself that it won't last forever.
It's absolutely wild, isn't it, though? Like, I always think of the photo, like, when you see everybody leaving the hospital, and I'm, what do you do? Like, you
Oh,
literally have no clue where to
no.
even start or what's normal, what's not normal. Like, even like,
There's no baby manual. Yeah,
even
it's absolutely crazy.
yeah, I was speaking to one of our members recently who's pregnant and she's really, really early on. And even with
Mhm.
that, she's like, I don't know what's normal. Like, I don't know what I should be feeling right now. Supposedly I'm pregnant, but I feel normal, but I don't feel normal. Like, should I feel sick? Should I not feel sick? And you can't ask anyone because no one knows. And everybody's situation is so different, isn't it?
I know. I remember driving home with Lottie. So Alan was obviously driving. I was in the passenger seat, and like I think we pulled over maybe like the drive from our house to the hospital is 25 minutes max. I think we pulled over like 3 times to check that she was in the car seat okay, and like we were just like, oh my gosh, like we've got a baby with us. And yeah, you know, like I actually knew absolutely nothing. I hadn't fed a baby or anything until Lottie came around. So yeah, I just assumed, like I said at the beginning, that they had some milk and then you would just lie them down and that was it. But wow, it's not like that.
Oh,
So yeah.
it's wild and it's so life changing, like overnight, and you're literally
Oh,
responsible
yeah.
for a human that, like you said, like
Yeah.
it's your baby, you're there as long as they're safe and they're
Yeah.
fed and they're watered, everything will be okay. It always will work out.
Yep. And it, like, as if they're crying, like the things you just go for out, is their nappy dirty? Are they hungry? Do they need a burp? That's quite often linked to poor sleep if they haven't got all of their wind up. And if you just check all of those things and they're fine, just give them a good old cuddle and get them to sleep.
Yeah,
Because there's nothing better. One day you will miss those nighttime cuddles. Like I miss the nighttime feeds with Otto so much, like that, just that little bit of bonding time. I would have never missed it with Lottie. But I definitely miss them now that Otto's kind of dropped them.
it's so hard, that, isn't it? Everybody,
Yeah.
when you're in it, it's tough.
Uh-huh. Oh
You're
yeah.
and you're sleeping normally again. You're like, oh man, I actually miss those like quiet nights.
I know. When it's just you and the baby and you're like, this is it. It's just us two just now. Yeah, I definitely missed. I wouldn't have missed it with Lottie, but with Otto, I'm like, I miss you a little bit. I think he's my last as well, so I know that like every tiny moment I'm not gonna get back again.
Yeah, yeah. And see, well, because you've done all the coaching and all that, like you will be better anyway. But I think like a lot of the time with your first one, it is so much harder because everything is so unknown. Like even
Yeah.
the pregnancy as well, like what's going to happen during this pregnancy? How is it?
Mhm.
And I know for both pregnancies for you were really tough and really
Mhm.
challenging,
Mhm.
but like almost like the second time round, you're more relaxed, aren't you? You know
Oh
what to do. It's different.
yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
you get those moments to pause and actually enjoy it
Mhm.
a little bit more.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely soak up all up with Otto, whereas with Lottie, I was kind of wishing that newborn stage away because I found it so hard. So I was like, when she gets to 4, that's what people kept telling me. When she gets to 4 months, it'll be easier. When she can sit up, it'll get easier. So I was just longing for those moments. Whereas with Otto, I'm like, no, like you had said, oh my gosh, he's got his first tooth already. I was like, I really don't want him to have his first tooth because that means he's going to be getting weaned soon. And yeah, I want him to stay like he is, but I know he won't. But
Yeah,
that's just yeah.
it goes so fast. Even
Yeah.
guys, I can't believe you're telling me Lottie's like 2 years
Oh
older.
my gosh, I know. I
Insane.
know, it's absolutely crazy.
So next question. What's one thing maybe most parents do wrong when it comes to getting their baby to sleep?
Okay, so I get when I do like discovery calls and initial calls, 80% of the mums say I know it's my fault because I've been doing X, Y, and Z. And I just, first of all, no mum is ever doing anything wrong with baby. Like you are doing what you need to do to get through the day, to have a little bit more sleep so you can be a better mum for your child. So like no one does anything wrong. But I would say that most issues kind of come from what I was saying about that, them not being able to self-settle. So if they wake up from a nap and they're just having a little grumble, like maybe light moans, and they're tossing and turning, you can leave them for a couple of minutes. Like what I always say to my like clients is like, right, if you hear it, just stop, listen. Is it just moaning? If it's just moaning, have a little look at the monitor before you like kind of run up the stairs to go and get them. So you're giving them that opportunity to maybe get themselves back to sleep. They might not, they might just lie there and then they might start crying, which is when you can go and get them. But if they're awake and they're having a little grumble, it's best to just let them learn, like, or give them that opportunity to try and learn to self-settle to get themselves back to sleep. Um, I would say that's where most of my like clients have come from. It's that kind of as soon as they hear little one rumbling, they'll go up and get them. So they're not getting that opportunity to learn to get themselves back to sleep.
Yeah. And do you think that's more like a mum worry, anxiety that if you don't soothe them quickly, the crying's going to happen quicker?
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
almost like, if I go and do this now, it will stop
yeah.
the
And
way
I
it
don't like
started.
honestly, I remember with Lottie one day my mum phoning me because my mum at this point lived in Inverness and I was down here. And I was on the phone to her and I just put Lottie down and I said, oh my gosh, I've got to go. She's woken up. And my mum was like, why don't you just wait a minute? Or like, why don't you just go into the, because I needed a shower. I remember I'd probably not showered in like 4 days because Alan had been away. And I said, I was on the phone to her and I was like, I'm going to go for a shower. But then Lottie started like, and I remember going, oh my gosh, Lottie's awake. I need to go and get her. And my mum was like, she's not even crying. Like and I was like, no, 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 it'll get so much worse if I don't go in and get her now. But then like as you realise when like that like giving them that little tiny bit of time can really, really help them and it can help you as well. I'm sure my mum was like, go in the shower and I was like, what? I can't go in the shower. She's awake. But I mean, I went and got her, but eventually I did learn that kind of just leaving them and allowing them that little bit of time doesn't always end up with that screaming baby crying. It just gives them that chance to learn to get back to sleep.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And I love that, exactly like you said as well. Like we do put a lot of pressure on ourselves and a lot
Yeah,
of guilt on ourselves to be the best that we can kind of be with being a parent. And we always think it's our fault and we're done this wrong, we're not doing that right. And you feel like you're a constant failure all the
yeah,
time,
yeah.
but you're just
Yeah.
surviving.
You're just surviving and you are the best. Like I said, you are the best mum for your baby. Like you are the only person who can be the mum for your baby and you're the best at it. So always as well, let's probably go with your gut instinct. Like as a mum, just go with what you think is best and you'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, amazing. So like one thing I was thinking, I didn't actually say this to you, but like, is this something people should maybe think before they have their baby? Like, because I know for you, you're really busy and
Mhm.
like maybe getting help from a sleep coach, or maybe going to have to wait
Yeah,
time to actually get help. And sometimes like when you're having a baby, you've got the room ready and you've got all the clothes and you've got all the
yeah,
food, you've got everything you need in the house, but you've not got anything to help you with things
yeah.
like that. Do you think that's something that people maybe it's becoming more known, people are becoming more aware of it to like
Yeah, for
things more?
sure. And honestly, it's gonna look like we've talked about this prior, but we haven't. I promise. I'm honestly thinking about doing a like newborn course for mums who are pregnant. So kind of videos of what to expect and like things that can prepare you for having a baby because I mean, I thought I was prepared because I had a pram and I had Lottie's room ready, but actually there's so many more things that cut like so many more skills that would have made me prepared when she came. Like even just for instance, knowing about baby reflux, it's so common. Like just having a little understanding about that, it would make a huge difference. So yeah, it's definitely something that I think if you're pregnant, it should be something you're thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then, like, when the baby comes, you're so exhausted, so overwhelmed.
Yeah,
There's so many other things you're thinking about. To again, and if you're like me and you, and you've not got friends that have had a baby, then like you don't even know what could help. So
I
like,
know.
I think like it's changing, and this is a wee bit off topic, but I was thinking about this as well because when women come to work with me, I always recommend like a mummy MOT, and it's not a big thing in the UK, but if you think about it, you've literally your
I
whole
know.
body has changed to grow a human.
I
Like if you
know.
had open knee surgery, your whole knee's changed, you would have rehab for months, and you don't
I
get
know.
anything as a woman. There's
No.
people coming out as mummy MOTs who are looking at your pelvic floor, your dias recti, like just like for me, it's really important if people want to work with me that
For
I'm like
sure.
get a mummy MOT. And the thing is I've had some like members who have kids that are like 14
Yeah.
and started training, and there's been issues that have came up from their pregnancy,
Oh yeah.
had
I
weakness
can only imagine.
that many years and not know about it. So I've had some women come with me and I'm like, book into a mummy MOT,
Mhm.
and they're booked up for months because there's so little of them. So that's when I was thinking about you. I was like, it's almost something like, yeah, we want to get the room ready and have all the kit and make sure everything's
Mhm.
ready for baby, but also having some things for you, like
Yeah, for
MOT
sure.
to get back up and not be in pain and
Uh,
to invest in something like that. And then also like sleep coaching to like make sure that you're getting to sleep and we're helping the baby sleep
I
as
know.
well. Like
Yeah.
that sounds amazing if you do kind of focus on something like that, because I don't think
Yeah,
there's anything like that.
definitely.
And if people are not working and you know what it's like, you're waiting for the baby just to come, that you could spend time on stuff like that.
Yeah, oh, 100%. Usually, yeah, if the pre due date, you take a good couple, well, you should take a good couple of weeks off just to get your sleep in and get ready for that because like yeah, you can especially after giving birth, I think some mums are home within a few hours now. Like you're just that's it. You're sent home after you've given birth a few hours and it's a massive thing that you go through. C-section, like natural birth, they're all absolutely crazy, but you're kind of sent home really quickly. So having that time to prepare and whatnot before that happens is it's super important.
Totally. So for you, like with the sleep coaching, because I'm aware mat leave's finishing soon, right? I hate saying that to people. Already
Yeah,
finishing it.
I don't know when I'm going back. Yeah, but it will. He's 5 months, so I've got another few months and then back to work.
Yeah, yeah. So what's your plan like with now? Because you're going back into like proper schools again, aren't you? You
Yeah, yeah. Prior, like since I've had the sleep lab, I've been in like an education office, so I've not actually been teaching. So yeah, but the aim is to go back into schools, I guess, like properly.
yeah, yeah. So what we're gonna what's it how would you feel you're going to be managing the sleep coach and back
Yeah.
skills like how
Um,
that?
So when I wasn't on mat leave before, I was working Tuesday to Friday. So I had that kind of Monday, and again, Lottie was sleeping really well. So it was all about time management and scheduling calls when she was napping or when I knew she would be sleeping or whatever. And I'll just be doing the same. I'll be working at night, working at the weekends, but also it's so important to take time for yourself. So I won't be working all weekend, but just that time management and having a really good, like I've got it's over here, this amazing diary by Caris Whitaker. I don't know if she's an Instagrammer. She's a mum as well. And it's just scheduling to it's amazing, honestly. It has hourly schedules and everything. So just using that as best I can and utilizing evenings, which works for mums anyway. And then again, like I said, those course like a downloadable course, which means that it'll be pre-recorded, so it wouldn't involve me kind of working all of the time. That will be there and I can just update it as I go as things change and whatnot.
Yeah, a wee bit more hands off, but all the information people kind of need.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So just
But
work.
always remaining hands-on, because like that's my favorite part, is kind of connecting with other mums and giving them that daily WhatsApp support. It would just be that I would give it before I left for work, and then kind of on my break and on my lunch and after school, which is kind of how it goes anyway. It's not like I'm messaging mums like every 2 minutes. It's kind of like in the morning they'll give me a little update, and then I'll give some advice, and then usually after lunchtime nap and things like that. So it should still work. I really hope it will, and I'll do everything I can to make sure that it does.
Oh, totally. And I think like even when I first spoke to you about all of this, like you're so passionate about it and you're absolutely
Yeah,
love it. And I was almost like, why don't you just go with this full
I
time?
know.
You're like you love teaching as well. And like I just think it's so special. You're just such a caring, you're absolutely amazing. And I know that you're just changing so many lives from like helping people with sleep. And I think it's really special that you're doing that, but also still teaching as well. And yeah, I'm just excited to see where things go for you.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I love teaching, and it's been my kind of bread and butter for got way too many years now, probably. Yeah, so definitely want to try and make them both work.
Yeah, perfect. Amazing. So, I've got a question I ask all our guests. Who is someone like a woman that comes to mind that maybe inspired you growing up?
This was this was a like I was speaking to Alan about this morning, and it's a real like I feel as though throughout my life different females have inspired me through different parts of my life. So I think when I was younger, like high school age, my I had my auntie Kerry who had cystic fibrosis, which is like a life threatening kind of illness that it lasts all the time, and it won't go away. And I used to watch her just like get up and take each day every day as it came, and it kind of inspired me because she would have a lot of like difficult news to take in, and she just got up and got on with it. So I think in my school era, she was a little bit older than me, so I really looked up to her and her kind of positive attitude on life, which I probably didn't appreciate as much as I do now. Like looking back, I'm like, gosh, you went through so much and you just like got up every day and dealt with it. So I definitely think she had a huge kind of inspiring influence on my life. And then like through university there was female lecturers, like I studied sport, and there was different female lecturers who just seemed to boss it and like come out, and I just loved that. And then when I went on to do teaching, like when I was doing my uni course, I was on placements and I was surrounded by amazing female teachers. And when I first started in teaching, I had an amazing head teacher who inspired me. And then kind of when I went through my sleep coaching, I was inspired by other sleep coaches who are all female. So it was just like all of these females have kind of shaped me who I am, if you know what I mean. There's been so many that I couldn't just pinpoint it on one of them. I said that to Alan today. I was like, I've been inspired by so many females, and it's amazing. And even now, I see like mums who are opening their own gyms, who are doing their own baby classes, and you're just like, you go for it. Like, I love it. I love seeing that. I think it's amazing,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, I love it. That's so special. And it is like just everybody. And I think with like the industry you're in, it is quite female based, isn't it? And it
Yeah,
is really cool to see like everyone's just trying to get by.
yeah.
At the end of the
And
day, everyone's just trying to get by and do their best. But I know you especially, like you are so driven that I was like, where is that really kind of coming from? Like, yeah, you could be a teacher, but you're like, I want to do more. And then it's like doing more. It's like, oh, but now I could be a coach. And then I was like, oh, maybe I could renovate a house. I'm like, Michaela.
I know, Alan's like, you need to stop. He's like, calm down.
Yeah, it's
Like
amazing though.
I'm doing a high rot in January, and
Yeah.
I was having a week, you know, when you have your wee moans about like sometimes at dinner, and he was like, Michaela, why are you moaning? Like, look at everything you're doing. No wonder you're tired. But yeah, there's just been so many. I love seeing females do well. I think it's great. I think when we were younger, you didn't see that kind of like, I don't want to say boss girl, but you didn't have that. Like when I was younger, I don't ever remember seeing like as many girls open up businesses and things like that. And now you see it so much. Like you've got like your aesthetics, you've got gym people, like, and you just see it everywhere. And I just love it. I think it's amazing. And I just think that's what like I've loved Lottie to be brought up in that kind of I don't want to say boss girl, but that kind of like independent woman who's doing it for themselves and doing it for their family. I can't wait for her to see that and hopefully be inspired by others, because I think it's great. And I wish I had a bit more of that when I was younger, because I don't think I really did. It was more when I got to kind of uni and whatnot that you started seeing that. And I don't know if that's from where I lived or whatever, but it was definitely when I moved down here, I started seeing a lot more of that. And I think it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, brilliant. I love it. And I always think of my mum, like, I feel so lucky because, like, she's been on the podcast before as well, but she's been through
Uh-huh.
so much. But she was always like, she was like a single mum, and she was out trying to become a manager at job. And then she got made redundant, and then she went back to uni. And it's just like, where does she get this from? Like, it's so crazy. But it's gave me a lot of like, right, okay, I just want to be better, better, better. And I know I can do stuff. I've seen my mum do stuff like managers and stuff. And then you go to uni and then you see more people
Yeah.
doing it. And I do think in a weird way, maybe even like social media has helped a lot as well, because we can see people killing it. Whereas when you're
Uh-huh.
brought up in a neighborhood when no one's really doing stuff like that, you don't know it exists. And I just feel like
No.
this massive opening now where people are opening up. And yeah, I
Yeah.
guess at the end of the day, we can't do it all being a mum and working and all this. But I think like you have, just following your passions and doing what you love makes
And
it.
I think as long as you're passionate about something, you will make it work. Like, yeah, because the sleep lab is like one of my biggest passions, and there have been times where it's been really tricky. Like I started my new job when I started sleep lab, and I don't want to make it sound like it was easy, because it definitely wasn't. It was about like, right, committing to this and setting time out for this, and this is when I'm gonna, like, it wasn't just like I'm just gonna wing it. It was about lots of planning and making it happen.
Yeah, brilliant. Honestly, we could chat all day. Like, I
I know.
do.
I really hope I haven't went off on tangents. Like
No,
I'm
you've been
so
absolutely amazing. I know so many people are going to love this, but also just know themselves, it's not just them. Like, there is help out there and they can do it and they're doing the best they can, and that's already amazing. But for people, if they want to reach out and ask you questions, where's the best place to find you?
so just my Instagram, which is at the Sleep Lab UK. That's where, like, you've got a link to my website on there, but that, like, most of my kind of inquiries come through DMs, and I get back to them as quickly as I can. Like, being a mum of two, sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but that's where you'll get me. If you DM me and then you want something, I can send you to my website, or I can get you set up. It's just, you just ask me a question and I'll reply.
Yeah, and like we kind of discussed like earlier as well, you do have a waiting list. You are pretty busy, so it's one of those things like message you earlier than later. But I even need to follow it because I even when I was looking for it, I've got your private one, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I need to find it, so I'll make sure I follow as well. But we can contact Michaela there. I'll also put those information in the description box as well, so people can find it.
Thank
But
you.
honestly, Michaela, you've been absolutely amazing. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing.
Brilliant. So we'll let everyone head off. Michaela, you stay here. We'll have a little chat after. But everyone else, thank you for listening. If you've got any questions, feel free to message myself or Michaela. We're always happy to help. And I hope you've really enjoyed today.